और जी वेलकम बैक टू अनदर व्लॉग्स। और आज की इस वीडियो में हम लोग बात करने जा रहे हैं अबाउट रियल एस्टेट मार्केट इन कैलगरी। फर्स्ट टाइम होम बाइंग प्रोसेस के बारे में, अपार्टमेंट लेना चाहिए, घर लेना चाहिए, व्हाट्स द बेस्ट टाइम टू एक्चुअली बाय योर फर्स्ट हाउस, वो सब चीज़ें हम डिस्कस करेंगे विद ईगोर हु इज फ्रॉम ईएक्सपी रियलिटी एंड ही विल बी डिस्कसिंग एवरीथिंग विद अस इन दिस वीडियो टुडे। सो एवरीथिंग मच टाइम, लेट्स स्टार्ट द वीडियो। सर सबसे पहले जान लेते हैं कैलगरी के रियल एस्टेट मार्केट के बारे में कि कैलगरी ही क्यों चूज करना चाहिए। सो ईगोर, लाइक व्हाट डू यू थिंक, व्हाई शुड पीपल एक्चुअली चूज कैलगरी ओवर एनी अदर मेजर कैनेडियन सिटी व्हेन दे आर बाइंग देयर फर्स्ट हाउस?
Well, the first thing is it's cheaper, so you don't need as much of a down payment. Like if you go to like Toronto or Vancouver, the biggest cities, like it's super expensive.
Yeah.
It might take you forever to even be able to get enough down payment to buy it. So first thing is cheaper, and secondly, it was actually rated as a better standard of living in Canada last year. So in terms of affordability, and it's also a growing city. Right now, you're going to see a lot of people with Ontario number plates here. So everyone is moving to Calgary. So for now, it's affordable, and that might change. I don't know how long it's going to be like that, but it can get out of control, just like Toronto or Vancouver. But for now, it's third best city, I would say, and it was rated as one of the best cities to live in. Number 3 last year. There was a research in the world. I think it was on the same position with Vienna in Europe. So that's why it's best to buy here than over there.
So first of all, like it's affordable. You can actually buy instead of like planning to buy. And secondly, like life here is good. I would say it's better than Toronto and Vancouver. Like when you have little financial stress over your head, you obviously enjoy life more.
No, exactly. You also make a little bit more here, a little bit less competition, I would say.
Yeah.
But the nature here is awesome, like Banff, Canmore, and other things nearby.
Yeah. Even this park right now, it's like evening time. If you go to Toronto, parks in like 6:30, they're gonna be all packed. You don't find a spot to record video in there.
That's true. No, Toronto is pretty. I used to live in Scarborough, Ontario myself as an international student.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Wow, I lived in Scarborough as an international student too.
Did you go to Progress Avenue by any chance?
Yeah.
You too?
Yeah.
Centennial College?
Yeah.
Oh no way, this is crazy. No way.
Don't tell me you were in my program. I was in computers networking.
Oh, I was global business management.
That's what would have been too much like coincidence. People wouldn't believe this is not scripted.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's crazy.
Yeah. So my next question is like for the people who like did not buy their first house yet and they are still planning on, but they are not sure like what is the process looks like, how to get approval, where like who do we contact, right?
Yeah.
So if you can quickly tell us like what's the process, what are the steps?
Well, it's actually pretty simple. So everyone is thinking that real estate is complicated, but actually the process is standard for everyone. The details might be different, but the first step I would say is to go to get a mortgage broker.
Okay.
You know, to get your pre-approval, so you know what your budget is before you start searching. Once you know what your budget is, also mortgage brokers, they can help you financially plan on terms of like how to build credit and how to save up, and if you're new to Canada especially. So first thing is go to a mortgage broker and get a pre-approval, and then or you can even contact a realtor before that, and I can make a detailed guideline to explain how to do that. But I want to say don't worry about it. It's pretty simple, and every single home purchase follows the same exact process in Canada. It's really standardized, and there is a legislation behind it too.
Okay, so you don't have to do your own research, but you can trust a good realtor.
Yeah, exactly. You don't really. It's pretty simple. You got a pre-approval, you start searching for a property, you submit an offer. Once it gets accepted, you just follow the process, and the process is usually you give a deposit within a couple of days, which is refundable, conditional, put in conditions, and if you don't like the property with the conditions or you don't get a mortgage, you get your deposit back and you get out of the deal. So that's the trick. If you like the house, you waive all those conditions and you proceed through the process, and you end up basically bank transfers the money to the seller transfers the ownership to you, done between the two lawyers, and then you meet your realtor and he gives you the keys. Basically that's like a snapshot like of what we studied for real estate for so long, you know.
Okay. So is it same for like buying a house, townhouse, apartment, or is it like slightly different when you go for an like freehold property versus an apartment?
The only difference is the ownership. So for example, if you are going for a condo, actually buying a condo is more complicated than buying a house.
Oh yeah?
Because you need to review condominium document reviews, because if you're buying a condominium, there could be a a problem there, because if they don't have enough money and they have major renovations planned, so they might have to basically go through the renovations process, and they might put a special assessment on your unit. It can be $5,000. I've seen up to $50,000. So you are buying a property, but you can actually buy a liability if you're buying a condo like that, and you have to review those documents to make sure that there is no such thing happening, so that you don't get into financial strain. So it's a little bit more complicated to actually buy a condo than house.
Yeah.
Like an apartment is more complicated, but
So,
process is same.
The funds you were talking about, it's property management funds, it's not your funds, right? They look at property management fund if they have enough cost to cover the management and the restoration on renovation, whatever. It's
Yeah, exactly. Basically what happens with that funds is they have a budget. So they have a certain reserve fund, they call it. So in that reserve fund, they have a certain amount of money. So you have to check the reserve fund study to make sure they have enough money for any planned future repairs. That's the most important part, and for the down payment in terms of their insurance and things like that. Because if they need a fix to change all the windows or roof, and can be like $1 million repair, they should have $1 million in the reserve fund. Otherwise, they would do the repair, but every unit is going to get portion of that amount, and that's the biggest stress for anyone, home buyers.
So you have to be much careful when you're buying an apartment, because it's not your own property, it's just a flat in a building containing 300 other units.
Yes, and if they all together 70% of them vote to do something major, you still have to pay for it as well, even if you vote against it. So it's that's kind of the challenge here. It's different from back home, from me especially.
Definitely different. So अगला question मेरा काफी interesting है, and it's most asked question. ठीक है? So like we already talked about, apartment is a little complicated and complex as compared to a house. So a lot of people have a budget of apartment. Maybe they don't wanna put that much money like buying a house. So what do you suggest? Should somebody buy an apartment as compared to buying a house? What is your perspective towards that?
Well, I'll tell you that I purchased an apartment first.
Yeah?
It was an apartment, yes. Before I purchased the house, I still have an apartment here close to downtown. It's rented right now. And that's how we purchased, because coming from Ukraine, I was like, that's a lot of money to buy a house, and I was stressed out with the huge mortgage. So I went for an apartment, and it actually helps out. So we first purchased an apartment, and then we put it on rent, and then that rental income basically covers the mortgage, and we got a pre-approval for a house afterwards. So if you don't want to buy, if you cannot buy a house right now, you can still buy an apartment, and you can still pay it off. It's way faster and easier, and you could use that equity to buy a house later on. So I would say, in terms of real estate, it's better to have something than not to have anything,
Than waiting 5 more years.
Renting, paying somebody else.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question here. Since you mentioned you used apartment equity towards your house, so do you suggest people they should buy apartment as an investment property? If they never owned anything, they still live in rented basement or house or apartment, should they buy an apartment and entirely rent it out for rental income or investment purposes?
I think it's absolutely possible to do that. I mean, you just have to find the right one that doesn't have too much of condominium fees, and there's if you and a right budget, so it has to cash flow. And absolutely, people do that. People still buy investment properties. I know someone in BC right now doing that. They are renting there, but they want to buy an apartment for cash in Calgary and just to keep it on rent. Those guys have enough cash for that. But people do that because if you keep that amount of money on your bank account and inflation, and Canadian interest rates are not like back home, 8%, it's 1%, 3% is nothing.
Generally 1%.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now.
So having that money in something that generates some rental income, and rents right now in Calgary are just skyrocketing.
Yeah, I moved a year, and not even a year and a half, it's less than let's say a year ago. And I rented this apartment, 1-bedroom apartment, for $1,000 a month, and now the same one is listed for $1,700 a month.
Exactly.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
And some people are looking at these rents right now, and they're like, okay, if I buy an apartment right now, my mortgage might be $1,400. So I would rather own that place
100%
than rent from somebody else.
Yeah, if you have enough money and you know what you want to do, and then I think instead of renting, buying an apartment, even if you want to live there for yourself, then it's still better deal.
Yeah, exactly. this would happen with the house that I purchased. I purchased a house, but unintentionally I didn't know it's going to go up in price.
Yeah.
But I purchased it 3 years ago, and it went up by, I would say, over $150,000 in value so far.
Nice.
So it's like I'm still paying for the mortgage, but it's like one more family member who was working. It just went up in price. So it's like, we took a mortgage. I put for that property. We put 5% down, and it's good. If I was to sell it now, I can get more money, but then I have to rent. So that's why I'm not selling it.
Okay, so when you are investing into an apartment, like investing, I'm not saying you're gonna buy and settle down there forever for your lifetime, but when you're buying it for investment purpose, you need to make sure that you are not paying like $1,500 rent for yourself and then buying an apartment and putting it on rent for like $1,000, right? It should, mathematics should make sense.
Exactly, numbers should make sense. Otherwise, and how you calculate it is there is mortgage payments, for example, taxes, utilities, and like all the expenses with the apartment, and there is principal payment. Principal is basically you're paying off the debt. So, for example, if it's all covered by the tenant, it's amazing. You're profiting by a lot because they're paying off your debt as well.
Yeah.
But basically, rent versus buying is if you can cover those expenses like property taxes, condo fees, and interest payments. If they're less, then it's worth buying than renting already. Because if you're paying even a little bit more, you're paying off your debt, which is basically you're paying off that apartment, it's becoming yours.
So my next question is again most asked question, जो कि मतलब हर एक home buyer के दिमाग में रहता है. So what is the best time to buy property? Because I see a lot of discussion going on internet, like now you should buy or now you should wait for another 6 months.
Yeah.
So when we should actually buy our first property, should we wait? Should we buy now?
That's the most difficult question actually. Everyone wants to know when to buy property.
Yeah.
And I've seen people who've been waiting. They've been waiting for past 2 years.
Oh yeah?
They've been waiting for the market to crash for past 2 years. But it's been, first they waited for it to crash and it went up.
Yeah.
And then they waited a little bit longer, it went up even more. And now they cannot buy a house anymore because they put new stress test. It is now out of their reach. So I would say the best time to buy it is when you are, you have a good job, everything is good, you have enough savings, and you are prepared to have this kind of responsibility of owning your unit. So the best time is I would say is when you can buy it, because if you wait for too long it can get out of your reach because the real estate is more protected from inflation than your salaries, and you might it might get out of your budget. So people who are trying to time the market are losing. I've seen investors and I talked to investors who have 50 properties and I was like, how do you time the market? They're like, I don't. He's like, I just keep on buying properties almost every year. Yeah. And well, sometimes I don't make as much, sometimes I make more, but in average, he's always in a profit. That's what I was talking to one of the Indian guys who is an investor. He's has 50 rental properties. He's driving a really old car too. He's not spending any money for anything else.
Yeah, real estate in Canada always goes up. Like if you check the history, it has always gone up, and it's always gonna go up, because I was reading an article on immigration website today. Yeah. They say they wanna bring 500,000 immigrants this year to Canada. Oh, yeah. So if they're bringing that much people, maybe they don't wanna buy property right when they land, but they're gonna rent. And they'll be able to rent when there are properties available. So if you buy your property, you'll be able to rent to them, make money, and eventually they'll buy their property so you can sold to them. So the process just goes on. And
they come with a lot of money from India, man. It's not like they're coming with no money. They come to Canada, they save up some money, buy something, they build some equity, then they sell off something in India, and they have a huge down payment and they buy another house and they keep that on rent now. So it's immigrants are, there is a huge misconception in Canada about immigrants. Some people are saying, oh, they're coming, taking our jobs. That's what Canadians are saying. But really, immigrants are coming with more money than some Canadians are able to ever save up.
100%, yeah. Because like even I always keep myself updated to immigration, and like even the requirements that they ask for people to immigrate here, it's like you need to have this chunk of money with you when you come here.
Exactly right. So have education, English, money, health.
Like we talked about, the process of buying home is much dependent on realtor, a mortgage broker, than the person himself or herself. Because they might not know what has been in the market in the city or in the province. So how do one choose a right realtor? How do they know this is the person I want to work with, or they just like see an advertisement on Instagram or right at the bus stop and they think like, okay, I'm gonna call this guy, he's gonna buy me property. Do you like, what do you suggest? What should one look into a realtor?
Well, I think the biggest thing about realtors is it's kind of difficult to choose the one realtor. What people usually do is, that's the most strange part, is they go and they meet a random guy who is a realtor, and then they go with that person, and then they might get into a trouble like that. So like you have to do some research on the realtor. Usually the best ones are like referrals. Somebody recommended you that specific person from the experience. And like, for example, you know, if you find the right realtor who is experienced, they usually have a team. So they have a team of mortgage brokers that they recommend you based on the experience of those people's qualifications. Lawyers as well. For example, I have lawyers I'm working with, I have mortgage brokers I'm working with, I have home inspectors. So you have to build the entire network of team, and it's all about having the right people who can help you, you know, through the entire process with more, you know, less stress, and making better decisions, negotiating a better deal for you, better mortgage rates, and so that, you know, it's not so stressful. Because if you make a mistake and you go with somebody inexperienced, it can be a very stressful process, like because you're buying the most expensive thing in your life, and if you get somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, it can be very stressful and expensive, you know.
Yeah. So like realtors in this market is just like immigration consultants in India. They are all over the streets. Every city has like tons of them. So you just don't go with the one that you see an advertisement for.
Yeah.
You have to really, you know, look for the person you think they'll be able to, you know, make up some time for you, who can really work for you, with you. And give you all the learning opportunities, like this is the type of property we should go with or not go with, maybe we should reconsider our budget, and they really give you good advice, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have to find a realtor who is experienced. The other thing about realtors, you're going to find that the more experienced realtors are not as available as the ones that are less experienced. The same thing with the contractors. So you're going to find out if you need somebody to do your renovation for the house, the guy who you need, you might have to wait for that guy a little bit. So that's kind of a thing. If you go with somebody who is immediately available, it just means that they are not busy enough, and they might not be as experienced too. So it's like you have to, and also you have to connect with that person. You have to see if you can trust that person with your money. That's the most important part. It's you have to be able to trust that person, that you know, and build that connection to that person, understand exactly what you want, and help you, you know, even help you understand what you want. That's the biggest challenge.
Because they should not act as a sales agent, right? They should act as like they are a good friend of yours, like who wanna educate you about the properties, about the market, about the timing, about the money decisions like you're making. So they should be, you know, do that education part more than doing the sales part.
Exactly, because some realtors out there, they're going to try to say, okay, what's your pre-approval? 1.2 million. Okay, let's go for 1.2 million, because they get commission out of the entire thing, right? But what do you really want? If you just want to buy an apartment in downtown Calgary for $150,000, you know, then that realtor has to help you, that not make you, you know, spend whatever, all the money that you have. It has to be your decision. And most part for real estate is actually education, just to help your buyers understand what their options are, what they can do with those options, and help them make a decision whatever they want. Not what the maximum budget is, but what they want.
Yeah, so Igor is your guy, because he's been answering all the questions from past like 15 minutes, I guess. So he's the guy. So it's just like you can call a lot of realtors and talk to them and see who you feel connected with, who, you know, is really giving you time to help you with this decision, and that's how you choose the realtor, I guess. So the last question that I want to ask you is like, what are the real challenges in the home buying process for someone who has no idea? So like, let's say if somebody is new to Canada, we consider new like whoever immigrated in past 5 years, okay? Don't consider who moved a month ago is only the new immigrant, okay? So if he or she doesn't know anything about anybody and they just connected with a realtor, and what are the like biggest challenges they face when they are buying a home, or like?
Well, I think the biggest challenge is financial one.
Financial.
Like everyone is thinking that buying a home is like, with, lots of immigrants coming from other countries, they think that getting a mortgage is a formality. So that's the biggest challenge. Everyone is thinking, look, I have $200,000, let's say, cash back from Mumbai.
Yeah.
I sold a condo there, I have $200,000, I should get any mortgage I want to. But in reality, in Canada, it's actually the other way around. The less money you have, the easier it is to get a mortgage because the bank gets CMHC insurance on it.
Yeah.
So like if you put 20% down, they don't like it. They want you to put less down so that then they are more protected and they can charge you more money over time. So you understanding that part and getting the money on time, and not only about finding the right place and shopping, but actually after you put an offer, after it is accepted, is actually to get funding for it. That could be the most stressful, and that's like the biggest challenge. And also a realtor who helps you buy it has to set it up in such a way that you are not pushed by constraints too much, because there is a certain time frame until when you have to remove the financial condition, and those conditions, it can be one of the most stressful times at your lifetime, because you're like, okay, I have 1 day before I have to get a yes from a bank, or this property that I already told everyone in India that I'm buying, or in Ukraine, that's my entire family, you're not getting it because you don't get the mortgage. So that's kind of can be very disappointing and very stressful, honestly.
Yeah, cause like buying a house in India is very different than buying a house here. It's a very long and complex process. I heard like it takes sometimes months to buy a house. Even when you're finalized it, like this is the one I want to buy, it can still take like few or couple months.
Yeah, actually buying a house, you can, like, if you have cash, you can buy it in 2 days. You have cash and lawyers, okay? But really, I would say at minimum 3 weeks. You're going to be very stressed out if you go for 3 weeks. At a comfortable spot, I would say 4 weeks. So how it works is usually, but that's after you get an offer accepted. So it can take longer. So once you get an offer accepted, 2 weeks for conditions, and then you need 10 business days for your lawyers and for funding for the bank. Because the bank, you can buy a house and you can say, I want to get the keys in 3 weeks, and then the bank steps up and they say, so sorry, we cannot give you $500,000 in 1 week, so we need more time. So yeah, I would say comfortably 1 month, can be 3 months. Don't stretch it out for half a year, because anything happens to your employment,
exactly,
you might lose the deposit.
Yeah, so just like I said, buying a home in India is very easy. You go there, like people have friends everywhere in India because they've been living there from generations.
Yeah.
So they know the bank guy, they know the realtor guy. And I told my parents, like, you have to go to school and complete some certification, licensing, education to become a realtor. And they said, people have to go to school to become a realtor, because in India everybody is doing it. They are working in the bank in the daytime, they are approving loans in the evening. They say, I buy you house. So it's very different.
Here it's actually what I like, and I love what they did in Canada. There is legislation to protect people who are buying and selling properties. So there is industries made in such a way to protect you. There is actually an insurance that realtors are not mentioning too. So there is brokerages. So every realtor is backed up by a bigger company, and that entire company is financially responsible for that realtor. So there's a huge players involved. Honestly, in one purchase of the home in Canada, a lot of families get paid. I'm talking about not only realtors, mortgage broker, bank employees, home appraisers, the people who are doing inspection, lawyers, and there is like an entire bunch of people from your one purchase of home. Entire bunch of people are getting making a living out of it. So it's an entire huge industry, and it's all made to protect you as a buyer, including the councils of Alberta, real estate boards and other entities there that are regulating it to make sure that you don't get cheated. That's why in Canada real estate is very good like that.
Yeah, it's a very formal process. Even I was surprised when I was looking at the process of home buying and everything. Like, there are certain insurances that are covering you for mortgage, that are covering you from, like, to prevent the fraud or buying a property that doesn't turn out to be what they told you. So there are a lot of protections for you as a consumer. So that's a good part. So like, it was just these all questions that I had in my mind that I think every first time home buyer goes through. And especially for the people who want to move to Calgary or who have moved to Calgary and now they're looking to buy the property. So you can definitely contact him. He's a very genuine guy, you can see in the video, and he has all the questions. I mean, he has all the answers to your questions. So thank you so much, Igor, for taking time today and
thank you,
making this video possible.
Oh, thank you, Rishabh.
All right. So we'll
Thank you
close
for having me.
Yeah, we will close this video and take
Subscribe to his channel.
care. And yeah, by the way, he has a YouTube channel as well. Where he like share his realtor expertise. You can follow him there as well.
Thank you.
All right, take care, guys.